Hi everyone, today I'm going to be talking a little bit more about mandatos. So mandatos are commands. It's when I want somebody to do something. So the mandatos that we're going to talk about today are the two negative, usted, affirmative, and negative, as well as the ustedes, affirmative and negative. So those types of commands are going to follow the pattern that we're going to talk about today. So two negative, usted affirmative and negative, and ustedes affirmative and negative. These are different from the two affirmative commands, which follow a different pattern, but these five will all follow the same pattern. So in order to conjugate, in order to form these commands, you must know the present subjunctive tense. So present subjunctive. The present subjunctive tense is often used a little bit more in advanced grammar. We use it in our Spanish 3 courses, but in Spanish 2, we use it in order to form commands. So we're not going to use all the forms of the present subjunctive. We're actually only going to use the two usted and ustedes. So for the sake of today, we're only going to use these three right here. Okay, these three right here are the only ones that are important to us. We don't need the yo, the nosotros, nor the vosotros. So only the two, the usted, and the ustedes conjugations. So in order to form the present subjunctive, our first step is to form the yo form in the present indicative. Present indicative. So present indicative is from Spanish 1 oftentimes. This is the first verb tense that you do know. So we are going to take the yo form of the present indicative. So for example, with the verb tener, our yo form is tengo. With the verb comer, our yo form is como. The verb hacer, our yo form is hago. This can be a little tricky for some people because there are a lot of irregular yo forms in the present indicative. We have some go verbs, we have some stem changers, we have some zuko verbs. So a verb like conocer, to know. The yo form is conozco. Conozco. So there are some tricky ones out there, and that can be why it makes the present subjunctive a little bit trickier in its natural conjugations. So the first thing we do is we have the yo form in the present indicative. The second step that we take is we get rid of the o. So we get rid of the o. So that would leave our tango, would give us the stem of tang. Como would leave us the stem of com. Aga would leave us the stem of ag. And conosco would leave us the stem of conosc. Okay, so we've gotten rid of that O. So that would be our next step. After we get rid of the O, our third step is to add opposite endings. So when I talk about opposite endings, I'm referring to the endings that are used in the present indicative. So the present indicative AR endings normally, again, we're only using these three. So the present indicative AR endings are normally as, and on. Present indicative ER endings are typically ace, a, and n. But now we're doing a switch. So we're going to get rid of these AR, we're going to get rid of these ER. These are now going to become our ER, IR endings. And these are now going to become our AR endings. So when I use the verb to eat, okay, so I'm going to use the verb comer. So we know my first step with the verb comer is to form the yo form, which is como, right? I get rid of the o, I'm left with com, and I'm going to add those opposite endings. So I'm going to have to form is going to be comas. The usted form is going to turn into coma. And the ustedes form is going to turn into coman. It is important that you remember that the to form right here, this is actually only going to be for a negative command, a negative to command, while both the usted and ustedes are affirmative and negative. The to is only for a negative command, so you do want to make sure you have that no comas there. It is important to have that. Okay. Another verb that we can use is the verb venir. Venir means to come, so the yo form of venir is vengo in the present indicative. So we follow our second step, we drop the O, and we're going to add opposite endings. So it is an ER-IR verb, so we're going to use these traditional AR endings. So for our to form, we're going to have to, remember our no, vengas. Our usted, we have an optional no here because it is for affirmative and negative, but either way it is going to be venga. Then we have our ustedes form, again the optional no, it's going to be vengan. It's important to remember that the to affirmative command is still formed differently. So all of these 5, the affirmative and negative to, negative, affirmative and negative usted, affirmative and negative ustedes, are completely different from the 2 affirmative commands, but they are very similar in themselves. So if I were to take one more verb, I'm going to take the verb beber, which means to drink. If I were to affirm the to affirmative command, I know that I need to take the third person singular of the present indicative, so that would leave me with bebe, drink. To negative, because it is a negative command, I do want to put a no. Now I'm taking the yo form, bebo, right, bebo, dropping that O, adding opposite endings. It is traditionally an ER verb, so now I'm using those AR endings. So I'm going to have no bebas, don't drink. The usted can be affirmative or negative, so I'm going to put that no in parentheses because it is optional, but either way it will be beba. And same with the ustedes, an optional no because it is affirmative and negative, leaving me with beban. So there you have the 3 steps in order to form affirmative and negative commands. For the to negative, usted affirmative negative, ustedes affirmative negative, we must use the present subjunctive. The yo form of the present indicative, so for example, tener, tango, comer, como, we take rid of the O, we take that O off to get our new stem, and then we're going to add our opposite ending. So a traditional AR ending, traditional meaning present indicative, now becomes an ER-IR ending. A present indicative ER-IR ending becomes an AR ending. There are some irregulars in the present subjunctive, which we do use to form those commands. So we do have some irregulars. So since our first step is to take the yo form and take off the O, you may realize that there are some verbs in the Spanish language in the yo form of the present indicative that do not end in an O. These examples would be the verb ser, where the yo form is soy, estar, where the yo form is estoy, dar, to give, where the yo form is doy, saber, where the yo form is say, ir, where the yo form is voy. So these ones are completely irregular. They do follow that opposite ending rule, but their stem is going to look a little bit different. So again, we only do need 3 forms. So we don't need the yo, we don't need the nosotros, we do not need the vosotros, but we will need the to, usted, and ustedes form. So for ser, it actually is going to change to seas, sea, and sean. Estar changes to estés, Esté, estén. And dar is going to change to des, de, den. These bottom two, saber, changes to sepas, sepa, sepan, and our ear changes to vayas, vaya, vayan. Again, the reason why these are irregular is because they cannot follow the rules that we have outlined before. They do not take off their O because there's no O to take off. So their stem looks a little bit different, yet they do still follow the pattern of opposite endings. One last set of irregulars would be with verbs that end in car, gar, and zar. This is actually very similar to the car, gar, zar stem changes that happen in the preterite tense in the yo form. So if we take a verb like jugar, we know that the yo form of jugar in the present indicative is juego. Okay, juego, we take off our O and we're going to add opposite endings. So it is an AR verb, so we're adding those ER endings. So what we'd want to do, we would want to say juegues to preserve that sound. But when we spell it like this more says juegues. Doesn't work for us. So in order to get that G sound, we're going to add a U. Juegues, juegue, jueguen. The U is just there to help us preserve the sound. A car verb, tocar, to play or to touch. We know that the yo form is toco, so we want it to say toque. We know that. But if we were to spell it like this, that says tose. In order to preserve the sound, we add a Q. So toques, toque, token. So that's a gar, that's a car, we just need a zar. So a verb that ends in zar might be empezar, to start. Empezar. So we know that the yo form of empezar is empiezo. We want it to say empiece, right? Because it is an AR verb. It doesn't quite say that if we drop the O and add an E, because ZE doesn't make that sound, so it is going to change to a C. So we're going to have empiece, empiece, empiecen. Any verb that ends in car, gar, or zar are going to follow that pattern of a G to a GU, a C to a QU, and a Z to a C. We do have those stem changers as well. One last point that I would like to mention would be with pronouns. When you use pronouns with commands, if it is an affirmative command, the pronoun attaches to the end. With affirmative commands, the pronoun attaches to the end. With negative commands, the pronoun goes before. The pronoun goes before. So this could be direct object pronouns, indirect object pronouns, as well as reflexive pronouns. So a good example would be the verb ponerse, to put on. So my to affirmative command is irregular, pon, so I'm going to say ponte, ponte la ropa. For all our other commands, such as to negative, I'm going to write no te pongas, don't put on, no te pongas, and it's going to follow that pattern. no se ponga or póngase, no se pongan or pónganse. So with commands, pronouns attached to the end of affirmative commands, and they do go before negative commands. So they do go before that conjugated command. So just to recap, with commands that are usted affirmative negative, ustedes affirmative negative, and to negative, we use what is called the present subjunctive tense. It's only important for us right now to know these forms, the to, the usted, and the ustedes forms. In order to form the present subjunctive, we must know the yo form of the present indicative of the verb. There are some irregulars, so please watch out. We get rid of the o. We take that o off. Then we add some opposite endings. Opposite ending means opposite from what they are in the present indicative. Okay? Afterwards, we do have some irregulars. So any verb that does not end in an O, such as ser, estar, dar, saber, and ir, we do have an irregular because it does not end in an O. We cannot follow that pattern. We also have car, gar, zar irregulars, where the stem change preserves the sound. So we have our gar changes to a GU, our car changes to a QU, and our zar changes to a C. And with pronouns, affirmative commands have the pronoun attached to the end, while negative commands have the pronouns before.